Hello and welcome to me talking through this shipping meme, the base of which was made by Horror Explorer on DeviantArt, thanks and credit to him. And he calls it a controversy meme, quite understandably because fans get very upset about differing opinions on such things. I don't, and I certainly don't mean to be controversial and upset people with my choices. I am going to go bottom to top so that more or less it's going to go negative to positive. Starting with no true pairing, Ross and Rachel from Friends. Now this was the romantic relationship with which the show was pitched and sold as having a romantic interest and an ongoing storyline. I don't think it worked out very well as it turned out. Now I have nothing but praise and admiration for David Schwimmer and Jennifer Aniston, and in fact all 6 of the leads in Friends. They are completely brilliant, and David Schwimmer always comes across as a very lovely guy. The way that Ross is written is often jealous, possessive, arrogant, judgmental, and let's address this. Yeah, they were on a break. I understand why Ross slept with the Xerox girl. I understand why Rachel was upset. That is what the writers wanted, for neither of them to be completely in the wrong. But I'm more concerned about Ross's behaviour leading up to that. He's jealous of Rachel's career, and in the final episode, as it seems, she gives up her career for him. She certainly gives up a job in Paris, and she doesn't definitely still have a job in New York. I remember Joey doing a play where his co-star wants to know why her character is in love with Joey's character, and his answer is because it says so in the script. I do feel that that is the case with Ross and Rachel and with some of these other relationships too. Next we have second disliked pairing, i.e. second to the one before it that I'm going to talk about next. Sabrina and Josh from Sabrina the Teenage Witch. I have nothing but praise and admiration for Melissa Joan Hart. I have some unkind things to say about David Lasher, which you can hear me say on my video talking through a character meme. Though they haven't quite made any of the positives on this meme, Sabrina is supposed to be with Harvey. That isn't the only reason I don't like this relationship. When Sabrina's with anybody else, I don't really mind. Of course, there's no sense of permanence about anybody else. Not even Aaron, but let's not go off on that tangent. I don't think David Lasher is up to the rest of the cast, and the character is not very good to Sabrina. About Halloween, about tennis, about her having the airhead virus. Compare that last one directly to Harvey, who spots immediately that Sabrina is not herself and takes her to her aunt's. Okay, Josh doesn't know there may be magic involved, but he should be concerned for Sabrina not being herself rather than having a go at her. And let's not forget, these are fictional characters, not real people. Their attitudes and their actions are decided by writers. A few writers did try to push the Josh and Sabrina agenda. A lot of them, I think, felt as I did, and it came out in their writing. But having said all that, Josh isn't really objectionable when we first meet him and he's managing the coffee house and being Sabrina's boss. I wouldn't mind if they were friends. Whereas I have in the Not Even Friends panel, Prue and Luke from True Calling. Why does True have romantic feelings for Luke? Because it says so in the script. I don't know how much I want to blame actor Matthew Bomer. He is, I think a lot of people would say, classically handsome, and I get the feeling that the writers and the execs and the showrunner thought that was enough. I don't see anything to really get a handle on with this relationship. We're just supposed to accept that they are falling in love with each other, they are together, but then the way the relationship is written is really quite offensive. Once they're together, True adopts this subservient role. Take, for example, the episode where Prue's ex-boyfriend / professor is killed by Shane Meyer, who appears on the next row up in this meme, in a way. Before this happens, the ex has wanted to talk to True, and True's like, well, you don't want me to talk to him, do you, Luke? He's my ex. And Luke's like, no, you talk to him. And she's like, yes, boss. Hey, writer, it's not up to him. And again, I think the powers that be sensed something wasn't working here. The decision was made to kill him off, and even though they get all this drama out of it, and True is feeling vengeful against Jack, and the script says that she's terribly, terribly angry and upset about it, they wouldn't have done that if the character had been working. Mixed feelings pairing is Sinbad and Maeve from The Adventures of Sinbad. I'll say first of all, I do support this pairing. I ship Sinbad and Maeve because it says so in the script, and also because the actors, Zen Gesner and Jacqueline Collin, get everything out of the dynamic between the two of them. My issue is that I think Maeve is very often overwritten. She's a strong, feisty woman trope, and the writers often fall into the trap of making her just nasty, asserting herself by ploughing over everyone, particularly men, being catty and jealous of other women. And I do wish to come back to that point in a few panels' time when I come back to this show. Jacqueline Collin plays Maeve as soft and benevolent whenever the script gives her any opportunity so to do, and it's because of her and Zen that I really believe in the relationship. And so, yes, I think the relationship could be done better, but Maeve is the one I think Sinbad should be with, because it says so in the script, because he met her first, because of their performances. For neutral pairing, I have chosen Theodore, Laurie Lawrence, and Amy March from Little Women. I do mean the book, and by extension, all the adaptations. I've taken my Little Women images from the film I grew up with, and I feel neutral about it because why not? It kind of had to happen. In the book, Louisa May Alcott even kind of admits Amy is left for Laurie. There's no one else in particular for him to marry. There's no one else in particular for her to marry. They're found family anyway at the time, as has been made very well known in recent years. Alcott had to pair off her characters. She knew she wasn't going to do it to Jo and Laurie from the start. Meg and John was the big relationship of book one from the start. Beth dies.
Beth dies?
Yeah, that leaves Amy and Laurie. It's impossible for me to feel strongly about it either way. Now, for this rare pairing, I had to get a picture of him and a picture of her and put them together in the panel. This pairing is so rare. These are two characters who never speak to each other, or as far as I could find, appear on screen together. Alan Adale and Lady Cluck from Disney's Robin Hood. It isn't so rare that only I have thought of it. I have seen at least one fan art of these two chickens being romantically linked, because they are both chickens. And if they did ever speak to each other, I don't know, maybe they would find that they weren't compatible after all. But given that they are the only chickens, Robin and Marion paired off being the only foxes, I think Lady Cluck and Alan Adale might as well give it a go. Socially, a lady in waiting is a bit above a minstrel, but I should think everyone would understand, especially when they consider that this is their only chance to have children. Guilty pleasure pairing I struggled with because I don't feel guilty about anything that I enjoy. But I went with Pebbles and Bam Bam because it's a bit of a strange one. I don't really enjoy the Flintstones anymore. I like it okay, but I don't go out of my way to watch it. And yet I ship Pebbles Flintstone and Bam Bam Rubble. They're babies, that's another thing that makes it a bit of a funny one. But they both seem really into it, despite being babies, Pebbles in particular. And one reason I could cite for it being a guilty pleasure is that Pebbles certainly isn't allowed to grow up very well. From what I've seen of specials and the Pebbles and Bam Bam show, the writers have her be a rather silly, stereotypical feminine archetype. Now back to Little Women, just friends, Jo and Laurie. This is the one that really does seem to be controversial. So many fans were disappointed that Jo and Laurie didn't end up together. I never was. I love a boy-girl friendship, and I can get quite annoyed if it turns romantic when it didn't seem to be going that way. And quite honestly, I would rather neither one of them had thought of marriage. Laurie didn't fall in love with Jo any more than she fell in love with him, and she didn't have to turn him down, because I love their friendship, and that's what it is, a friendship. I could possibly have put them in the more like siblings panel, and Sinbad and Bryn from The Adventures of Sinbad would have been fine in just friends. But now is the time to come back to that point about Maeve being overwritten. Bryn kind of proves that you don't have to do it like that. She's a strong, feisty woman who stands up for herself when she needs to, and when she doesn't need to, she has a quiet strength, and she is supportive and cooperative with the crew of the Nomad all the time, unlike Maeve in the hands of certain writers. And all of these are reasons to like Bryn. When I met her, I was already invested in Maeve and Sinbad as a couple, despite my mixed feelings. So I've never shipped Sinbad and Bryn as a romantic pairing, but I do enjoy them together. They make a good team. They're good friends. They become very close, hence more like siblings than anything else. Except friends, because that works too. Now, I promised Shane Meyer, didn't I? That's not exactly him on the right there, but it is his character Willie DeWitt, along with Deadeye Duck from Bucky O'Hare and the Toad Wars, my bromance true pairing. The only one here that isn't at least potentially a romantic pairing. Again, much of this I have said on my characters meme talk through. Deadeye is my favourite character in the whole cartoon, and he is the best friend to Willie in the whole cartoon in either universe. Check out that other video if you haven't and you would like to hear me say why I like Deadeye so much. And Willie's a great character too. Hear me praise him on my Bucky O'Hare commentaries. Now let's move on. Comfort pairing. Theodore and Eleanor from Alvin and the Chipmunks. And I wondered rather about the interpretation of this panel. Should the pairing be one that comforts me? One where they comfort each other? Well, I think both of those are true in the case of Theodore Seville and Eleanor Miller, as she becomes once she and her sisters are adopted by Miss Miller, of course. They are absolutely sweet, and I'll explain in a couple of panels' time why they didn't get sweetest pairing. But in the picture I've chosen, Eleanor is helping, supporting Theodore. He's nervous about being in the play Jekyll and Hyde, which is a big part of Alvin and the Chipmunks Meet the Wolfman, and so is their relationship. Eleanor is a lot more confident than Theodore, and of course he deserves it because he's so sweet. It's not like she gets nothing in return. Hottest pairing is Eduardo and Kylie from Extreme Ghostbusters, who appear twice on this meme, so I shall come back to them. In terms of them being the hottest, there is a clear physical attraction there, kind of like with Pebbles and Bam Bam. I buy into, sexual relations, whether realised or just potential, as in this one, more in cartoons than in live action stuff, perhaps because you don't see the people in other contexts making other shows or talking to Graham Norton or someone about making that show or film. And in terms of being hot, Extreme Ghostbusters isn't very, very stylized, is it? The characters have realistic proportions, discernible facial features, 4 fingers and a thumb on each hand, which not everybody has, but I think you know what I mean. So yeah, I think they're hot. I did when I was 12, although perhaps I wouldn't have had the confidence to announce it as I am doing now. More on them later, but here's the sweetest pairing, Kari and TK from Digimon. They're very like Theodore and Eleanor in that they're young and cute, and they comfort me and they comfort each other, but I've given them sweetest because of what they represent. Pretty much the entire point of any Digidestined is to represent some part of the human soul, and TK and Kari are hope and light, respectively. They are innocence, they are purity, they are, in a sense, sweetness, and they are absolutely sweet to each other. And again, we're going to do second before first because of the order I'm going through this meme, backwards on the top row. My second beloved pairing is Alvin and Brittany from Alvin and the Chipmunks, obviously. They were the first fictional couple I ever shipped. I don't suppose when I was so small I can barely remember it now, I could have put my finger on why, except that Alvin was my clear favourite and still is very engaging, very fun, and Brittany brings those characteristics out in him. Like Eduardo and Kylie, they have a love-hate kind of volatile relationship, and that's what they were going for with Sinbad and Maeve, wasn't it? I think, in the cases of those two cartoons, it has been more successful than with Sinbad and Maeve, which is why I don't have mixed feelings. Alvin and Brittany are kind of like rivals. They're very competitive. They both want to be the centre of attention, and they're also very passionate, very expressive people, and I think they kind of get a kick out of that sparring with each other. And I'm fine with sparring between potential lovers if it's working. Once they are officially together, they are going to be very, very nice to each other all the time, as opposed to about half the time as they are as kids, as we see in that episode with the visions of the future where the Chipmunks and the Chipettes have married each other. And again, like with Theodore and Eleanor, the picture I've chosen is very expressive of the kinds of things that they do and the reason why I engage with them. And now back to Eduardo and Kylie, my main one true pairing. They have this love-hate relationship for different reasons to those I've just described for Alvin and Brittany. Eduardo and Kylie are both emotionally vulnerable and they are wall builders. Eduardo more than Kylie, I think. And because he's emotionally vulnerable, he has this rather prickly shell. And I think Kylie gets frustrated that he is quite as prickly as he is and she's not always quite sure if it's real. And as I said on that characters meme, I have analysed the bejesus out of their relationship in other media. I have got so much inspiration from it over the years and indulged in various fan activity, and that is why I really had to choose them as my main one true pairing. It's fine to have several one true pairings, of course. It has been extremely interesting for me to go through all that and think about what works for me and what doesn't and why. I do hope at least some of it was of interest to you. Thank you for watching and goodbye.